Well, while our new studio is under construction, Skype will not work for you. So if you have Skype, don't use it. And we're going to come back in a moment. We'll take your phone calls with Rich Ralston as we talk about his work, Subtle Energy, and the world we experience. All that in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Okay, welcome back to Coast, and Rich Ralston is with us. We'll take your calls. But, Rich, you wanted to do the spoon type program. Yeah. So what do we do here with these couple of spoons?
Okay, the curvature of the spoon, I want you to put it in the palm of your hands, one on each hand, and I want you to point them, put your hands, the top of your hand facing down, like you're putting your hands on your thighs. And take the spoons and put them in your palm of your hand, and I want them to be pointing to the right, one on each leg.
The top of the spoon to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as you do this, what you're doing is you're directing energy out of your body, because energy enters on the positive side, which is your right side, and it goes into the left most of the time. What you're doing is you're directing the energy to the right side. In other words, you're emptying the energy out of your body, out of your aura. Now, this is the interesting part of this, because we all have a bunch of static or extra energy in our body. As you hold those spoons, I want you to see if you can feel them, feel your hands pulsate at all. Do you feel your hands pulsing at all?
Now, I'm clutching the spoons. Should I be clutching them?
You don't need to clutch them. Just hold them in your hands firm, and make sure the curvature of the spoon is in the palm of your hand, because the energy runs down through the center of your arms, down into the palm of your hand, and you're connecting the energy to the curvature of the spoon, and then it goes out the end of the spoons.
Almost like little antennas.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing. Now, what you're doing is you're eliminating energy out of your aura, and you're clearing your frontal lobes, because the first thing that clogs up in your mind when you have too much energy is your thinking processes. So what happens is you sit here for, you don't need to do this, George, you'll go to sleep on me, but later after the show's over, you can do this. You'll sit there and you'll feel a lot of clutter in your mind leave.
Huh. Okay.
And you'll be able to think much more clearly. Like in the morning, I get up and I'll take a piece of paper with a pencil and I'll sit down and I hold those things like that. And after a few minutes, I start remembering things I needed to do. So I make a note. What do I need to do today? Oh, yeah, I need to change the oil in my car. I haven't done that in 3 months. Oh, okay. Or whatever. It helps you bring in clarity, because you're eliminating a lot of clutter out of your aura.
Now, how does Uri Geller bend spoons with his mind? Is it magic, as some magicians will say?
I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
Don't know how to do that.
Just,
although the older I get, the more I'm going to learn how to levitate, because I don't like picking up furniture.
Levitate everything. Learn it like the Egyptians did with the pyramids.
Yeah. And that's just a technique of learning to use energy. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the phones now. West, Sonny is in Salina, California. Hey, Sonny, thanks for calling. You're up with us. Go ahead.
Hey, George, I had a question for your guest. I was born around the same time as John F. Kennedy, Jr., and I kind of watched him growing up, sort of unconsciously, I think. I was always aware of him because we're from the same age group, and I liked his father and so on. And I was really shocked by his death. The crash and the whole aftermath just kind of shook me up. I'm wondering if your guest visited Philbin Beach off Martha's Vineyard where some of that debris washed up, would there be enough energy there left over for him to pick up any kind of information or give him any answers as to what John F. Kennedy might have experienced in those last moments of his death, or even what he may have thought about his death in the aftermath?
Okay. And I can tell you that I was talking about that today with a friend of mine, by the way, who's a pilot.
Oh, really?
And he thinks that JFK Jr. went into a spin and just could not pull out of it. But, Rich, what do you think? If you could see...
Yeah, yes, I think you can. many people have the ability to pick an object up and read the energy from it. I can pick up rocks, and I can go back in time and find out who used the rocks. You can actually just put your hands on furniture, and you can go back and find out who built it and how it was built. Of course, if you can tie into the energy field of that particular thing, you can go back and find information out. Mm-hmm.
Do you sometimes get like a feeling, a jolt, when you hold an object or something?
I usually just see pictures, images. I'll see an image of something that happened. What I do is I lower my vibration down to the frequency of the object, and then I project my awareness into it, and then I'll be shown generally what happened or who held it or whatever. And different energy workers get different. Some of them will have feelings. Some of them will see things. Some of them will be able to go back in time to the event. When I do past lives, I always usually go back to the event and see the whole scenario of the person and who they were and how they lived. It's a matter of tying into the frequency of energy of the object and going back with it.
You know how sometimes somebody gets some donated organ or body part from somebody who's passed on, and sometimes they pick up that personality or memory of that individual, too. And,
absolutely, because I clear a lot of that out of people when they come to see me. We call it low self energies or high self energies. Many people have had bad relationships in marriages or something. They'll come and their ex-husband's bad energy is still attached to them, and they're unable to have another relationship with another person until I clear that energy out of them.
Huh.
And I create an energy ball with it and expel it. And I have a whole chapter on how to do that in my book. And a lot of people can do that themselves once they understand the dynamics of how energy works.
Let us go next to Normal, Illinois. William is with us on the wild card line. Good morning, William.
Good morning, George. Well, I tell you, this is the show that is all about with the Coast to Coast family. My question for your guest is, do we have a choice when I die to stay here on this planet, or do I have to, go beyond this planet or the next realm?
Oh, okay. You have a choice, and your soul came here to experience many things. And when you first come to the earth plane, you'll have certain experiences that you want to accomplish. So many times you'll reincarnate and come back until those things are finished. Now, once you feel it's finished, then you can leave. Your low soul's the same way. It's more primitive, so it has to evolve in a different way. But in my book, I explain how people that learn energy work and they become quote-unquote enlightened, which means that your low soul and your high soul are actually working together, and you learn to rid energy patterns from the past. You get rid of your old karma. Then you can transcend up and leave.
Okay, next up we go to our first-time caller, Callie in Atlanta, Georgia. Callie, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Okay, I had a question for your guest.
Sure.
When I was a little girl, my parents got me a Ouija board, and I don't think they knew what it was, and I would play around with it. And ever since then, I would see dark spirits, and I actually went to a palm reader lady, and she told me my life is full with chaos and confusion, and I want to know, how do I get rid of that? Because I hear your guest talking about the bad energy that follows you, and it kind of prevents you from, being who you're supposed to be.
Right down your alley, Rich. What does she do?
Well, you go to somebody like myself that can recognize what the energy is. If you're still holding on to certain, now I'm going to use the word entity, because the word entity just means an energy form of consciousness that attaches itself to you. You may have some sort of a energy attached to you that's been with you for many years, and it's creating all kinds of imbalances in your energy system, which is very common. That's what I do. I clear people of this stuff, and then once they get clear of them, they can just resume their normal life. And they also need to educate themselves on how they can do energy work. So you could get my book and you could study it, and you could probably help yourself get rid of some of this stuff just by reading it and practicing some of the things that I write about.
Rich, when we were kids, and we sometimes thought that there was a boogeyman in the closet or something like that, was there?
There could have been. But most of the time, if somebody saw an apparition like that, it was probably a soul or it could have been one of your relatives one of your relatives that was actually looking over you that, had crossed over and come back to check on you.
Why would they hide in the closet, though?
Well, I don't know. I think that's if there's a spirit that wants to get crossed over or stuck, they usually find some place to stay, and then when you're vulnerable, they'll come out and then they'll scare you, and they feed on your fear. So in the movies, they always have everybody come out of closets. But when I walk into a room, they're usually standing in the middle of the room waiting for me.
All right, we've got Jeff in Culver City, California now. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, George and Mr. Rich? Yes, when it comes to these departed spirits, whether, recently or those who've been dead for years or centuries, it seems that certain individuals have, the ability to communicate with these deceased, and, and they cannot, communicate with them, clearly. And what I want to know, Mr. Rich, this is my question: is there any way possible for these gifted individuals with supernatural powers or abilities to somehow convince the dead that, one, that they are dead, and two, that the living need their help,